3:09. 3:09. That's the time that we're getting started today. Hello and welcome to Football Friday here on the Southside Beat. Thank you so much for joining the show. Sorry we're getting off to a late start today. 3:09 is the time. Normally we're starting at 3, but it's 3:09 today. Hey, taking advantage of the off day, man. Both my wife and I got our Pennsylvania licenses all updated, got the real ID thing updated. By the way, if you don't have one and you need to be flying places, the real ID thing is the thing you're going to need to have very soon. So that's taken care of. Both of our vehicles are registered in Pennsylvania now. Inspections and emissions all done. Part of the moving process. It's all done. But thank you everybody for joining the Southside Beat here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcasting Network and on our Steelers YouTube channel. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you're not tuning in live still, thank you so much for listening. We did not do a show yesterday, Thursday. I was at Acrisure Stadium, and it was just going to be impossible to do it. Not just with like logistics, but it was just going to be too hard to do a show. But joint practice with the Bills yesterday, I felt like it was a good practice for the Steelers. I thought, the offense and the defense both won in 7 shots. So there was like Steelers O versus Bills D and Bills O versus Steelers D. And the Steelers won 4-3 in both cases. So, that's good. There were some good moments for the Steelers on both the offensive and defensive sides. I thought both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields looked pretty sharp with their throws. With their decision-making. I thought Van Jefferson continued to look good, continued to build off of what he did in Latrobe. The running game is starting to, I think, come together a bit more, especially when it comes to more of the wide zone stuff that is known to be a staple of Arthur Smith's offense. I think some of that stuff is starting to gel a bit more. Now, still 3 weeks until the season begins. 3 weeks from Sunday, that is, obviously. And, I'm not going to sit here and try to make any like bold predictions that, hey, they're going to be able to run the ball efficiently right out of the gate. But it looks like they're doing better with that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, they need to be able to put that on film whenever they, play these preseason games coming up. Obviously, tomorrow night against the Bills at Acrisure Stadium. And then next week when they travel to Detroit. Obviously, that game is probably not a lot of starters playing in that game. So really want to get a good look at it tomorrow when they play the Bills in the second preseason game, which leads me to what today's show is mainly going to be about is the starters will be playing. Mike Tomlin said, roughly 4 series. That's their template. It's not etched in stone. It's not etched in stone. Like, it just depends. Like, if they go 3 and out 3 straight times, I highly doubt that they're going to just do a 4th series. If they go 3 and out 3 straight times, and then the 4th series is like they get 1 first down and then they have to punt, like they'll probably go back out for a 5th series. But then if they have 3 series in which they're long, they take time off the clock. They get points on each one of them. 3 series might be enough. It just depends. So that is, kind of what it's just, you don't know what to expect. But one of the guys who will be among those starters is Russell Wilson. He is making his preseason debut. Not only making his preseason debut, but he is starting. So he will be with the ones. Mike Tomlin said that yesterday whenever he addressed the media after the joint practice with the Bills. So everybody's talking about, let's ride or let Russ cook. Well, this is going to be the beginning of it. So this is the beginning of the Russell Wilson era. Now, obviously not the official start because it's just preseason, but it's going to be the first time that we see him in a Steelers uniform that's not a practice jersey. And that he'll be playing in a stadium against another team. And there's going to be a lot of attention on that, obviously, because they brought him in. He has had pole position to be the starting quarterback from the very beginning. And as I reported in Friday Insider, if you haven't had a chance to read it, there are already, like, management is already considering offering Russell Wilson a contract extension after the season is over. Not right now, not before the season, but after the season. But they're already considering that, which really tells me that what Russ has done since signing his name on the dotted line has thoroughly impressed everybody who matters on the South Side, that being Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, Andy Weidel, everybody who, Art Rooney II, obviously, like everybody who is involved in the decision-making process for the Steelers has to be thoroughly impressed by what Russell Wilson has done. And I'm obviously, because he didn't get to participate that much in camp, that obviously means that a lot of what he's doing behind the scenes, stuff that's not being seen in front of fans or in front of cameras, is, it's making an impact. Because if they're already talking contract extension for when the season ends, that tells me, like, okay, there is something that he is doing that is making them believe in him. Because also in that same quarterback room is a guy who was drafted 11th overall, has only 3 NFL seasons under his belt, and whose talent is unlimited, really. I mean, we talk about Russell Wilson being Mr. Unlimited. I think Justin Fields is just about as unlimited as any player in the NFL when it comes to his potential. And so I've always said along, I always thought it would be best for the Steelers if Justin Fields were to be the one who balls out, because he's the younger guy. It makes more sense to give the long-term money to a guy who's younger, not to a guy who is going to turn 36 before Christmas. So, but I'm not the one who makes decisions, and I just report what I'm told, and that's what I've been told. That he has already done enough in which they are considering contract extension right away. So, not right away. Sorry, I was literally reading a text and I'm at the stage right now because of all the Brandon Ayuk stuff. I'm reading every text that comes through. But no, to be considering a contract extension after the season's over. And J Moods, of course, asked the natural question there. What does that mean for Fields? Is he out next year? I don't know. Honestly, just listen, just because the mentality right now, or the feeling right now, is that the contract extension is going to go to Russ. I mean, listen, there's still a whole season to play. This does not mean that they're already starting to draw up numbers and stuff like that and start submitting offers to his agent. Again, this is not happening before the season. There could be a lot that happens during the season. This could be like, imagine a rookie Ben Roethlisberger situation playing out, in which Russ is the unquestioned starter. He goes in and they get, a win in week 1, or, whatever it is. They get off to a good start, and then an injury happens, nothing that's season ending, but he's going to have to miss a few games. And then Justin Fields goes in there and he just flat out balls out. Like, offense is doing like the same or the equivalent as what Mason Rudolph did for this offense last year down the stretch. Like, if Justin Fields goes in and he all of a sudden looks like a completely different quarterback, and they just are steamrolling teams, Mike Tomlin can't just be like, all right, Justin, get back to holding the clipboard. That's not going to happen. That's not, you have to be able to make adjustments and to call an audible, to use a football term. You have to be able to do that. But the feeling right now is that Russ is showing enough in which they believe that Russ is going to be able to go into the season and he's going to be able to be a better quarterback than he was in Denver, or he's going to be a good enough quarterback that he will be able to help the Steelers get to where they want to go, which ultimately is a Super Bowl. but at least from the very beginning is to either win the division or get into the playoffs. And, at that point, it's okay. What happens? Does Russ help them finally break the streak of, seasons without a playoff win? Does he help them get to the conference championship? Does he help them get to the Super Bowl? And does he help them win the Super Bowl? I have a lot of skepticism when it comes to some of those outcomes, but shoot, right now, everybody is 0-0. Everybody has a chance right now. And so you never know. What if all the dominoes fall? What if the Steelers get the same type of advantage that they got in 2008 in week 1? Tom Brady goes down with a season-ending ACL injury. Well, there's your top competition gone right there. The Steelers were a great team in 2008, but let's not forget that Tom Brady being out that season didn't kind of make the road to the Super Bowl just a tad easier. So, they had to beat Phillip Rivers and the Chargers and a rookie Joe Flacco and the Ravens to get to the Super Bowl. So, what if something else happens along those lines? Who knows? But there's a lot that can play out. I don't want to necessarily think that just because the Steelers are thinking this way, that it just means Justin Fields is a one and done in Pittsburgh. Maybe he gets a Jordan Love type contract. Maybe the contract extension that they're thinking of for Russ is 2 years, 3 years. Now, I don't think Justin's going to want to wait around that long, but who knows? Who knows? But right now, their mentality on August 16th, with still 3 weeks left until the season begins, and then a whole 17-game season to play out, there's a lot that can change between now and January. A lot that can change. So that is pretty much the latest, and which is why I titled the episode today, like Russell Wilson's foothold at quarterback. Like it is not just on the depth chart. The Steelers are very, very impressed with what he's come in, how he's approached the job. Andy Weidel used the word genuine to describe him. Now, I don't imagine that if there are issues behind the scenes that they're going to broadcast them. Teams don't do that. So, but they are obviously thoroughly impressed where they're already considering contract extension at the end of the season. So Justin Fields has his work out ahead of him if he's going to get a long-term contract in Pittsburgh. I'll put it that way. Not ruling it out entirely. But, yeah. Mr. CJ Jr. comes in with the heavy hitting question. Is Chris at Pittsburgh Dad's house? No, I am not. My basement or my den, whatever you want to call it, it is got the wood paneling everywhere. That's the way it was when we bought the house. Obviously, you guys knew saw the Steelers swag and everything like that I had from whenever I was doing the show, whenever I was in Texas. Been throwing that up. I've got more swag. I've got some other stuff you can't see too. Like for example, we got like my wife's Navy oar right there that was given to her for 20 years of service in the Navy. We got a Shiner Texas, a Shiner box sign with the Texas logo right there, a Nolan Ryan sign. Texas Den, by the way, if you don't know, my nickname on the Steelers beat is Tex. Makes a lot of sense since that's where I'm coming from. I got a bunch of different stuff hanging up, and I got more stuff to put up. So still kind of moving in. Yeah. So, but no, definitely not. Oh yeah. I forgot like the best thing of all that right there for those Office fans, that sign right there, that is the St. Pauli's Girls sign, that neon sign. It's a smaller version of it, but that is the famed Michael Scott beer sign from the dinner party episode. Yeah. I had to have one of those, and that was a wonderful housewarming gift from my wife. J Moods says, Russ will be good, but Fields will be more fun to watch. Shoot, man, let's not discount Russell Wilson and what he's still capable of. First off, yes, he's 35, but he's not like in like wet cement, trying to move around. He can still move around a bit, and he can still throw the deep ball. He still throws Andy Weidel described it as majestic. he still throws a very, very good deep ball. So the first time you see Russ hit one of those deep balls and it hits either George Pickens or Van Jefferson or Calvin Austin III or whoever right in stride, and you just go, whoa, ho, 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 and it's that perfect spiral that just comes right down and falls right in the breadbasket. Just remember where you heard it. Russell Wilson can still throw the deep ball. But yes, Justin Fields is absolutely electric. There needs to be packages in which he is the quarterback, in which whether it's red zone or short yardage, the read option, man, it's almost a cheat code. It really is, because and they've done it in 7 shots. I don't know how many times, and I can't tell you how many times that Justin's just kept the ball and trotted into the end zone with nobody in the way. Nobody. And it's because, defenses, especially in the goal line, they can't just leave holes open in the middle because you've got Najee Harris or even Jaylen Warren. So you can't do that. You have to respect what they can do up the middle. But at the same time, you do that and you don't leave anybody to contain the edge. Justin Fields is going to be able to just trot right in. So yeah, like you can't. It's a cheat code. That's the best way to describe it. They need to have some packages for Justin Fields, and I believe they will. I don't think he's just going to hold a clipboard all season long. Let's just say Russell Wilson is healthy for all 17 games. I don't think Justin Fields is just going to stand there either with his helmet on his head and holding a clipboard, or holding his helmet, or sitting on the bench. I think he's going to get on the field for sure. So, Chris B71 says, and please tell your wife thank you for her service. I appreciate that. I will. Yeah, she's awesome. Ben asks a really good question here, because I wrote about this in Friday Insider too. Ben asks, who are your best candidates for filling the gunner role? I see Corey Trice, Des Fitzpatrick, and Ryan Watts as solid candidates. Those guys are there for sure. There aren't many other candidates. Darius Rush could possibly be one. But they don't have one right now. That's the concern, that they don't have a true gunner on this team, and that's a problem. Like, you need a guy who can be able to get downfield. You saw it with the punt coverage in the preseason opener against the Texans. That it was not good. Beanie Bishop was not good. They are definitely concerned about what Beanie Bishop can do on special teams, and so maybe, like, they have to, whenever like cut down day comes on August 27th, if there's a guy cut that they like, that could be a 51st or 52nd or 53rd guy on the roster that pretty much is just playing special teams and he's a good gunner, maybe, I don't know, but you need to have one. And right now the Steelers don't have an unquestioned guy who's won that role. And, as unsexy as it is to talk about special teams and gunners and all these other roles, these are very, very essential roles. Otherwise, getting Cameron Johnston, a fantastic punter, by the way, is almost moot, because he can blast the ball 60 yards downfield, but it doesn't matter if they're running it back 20 yards every time. You got to have guys who can get downfield and prevent these guys from, making the net yards in terms of punt coverage, making the net yards terrible. Doesn't matter if you have a guy who can boot it, out of the stadium pretty much. So, until they get a gunner, it's going to be a concern. But Corey Trice, Des Fitzpatrick, Ryan Watts, those are guys that will, they'll be there. Like, I think they'll be there in the mix. Ryan Watts is a guy whose arrow is pointing up to me. I initially had Quez Watkins on the roster over Des Fitzpatrick on my most recent 53-man roster. I'm almost not leaning that way right now. I almost feel like Des Fitzpatrick might be a tad bit of a step down as a receiver, but it's almost a bit of a wash. But then Des Fitzpatrick can provide more on special teams. So I would actually probably now lean Des Fitzpatrick over Quez Watkins, especially whenever you hear, what I heard of the gunner role being as concerning as it is. And when I say Gunner, I'm not talking about bringing back Gunner Olszewski. I haven't seen that joke yet. So that's Beat asked a really good question about the quarterback stuff. Was this a real competition? No, no. I mean, I do think that they went in, that Mike Tomlin and everybody went in with an open mind, and he hasn't flat out said Russell Wilson is our unquestioned starter week 1 in Atlanta. But it would have taken a lot, and it still will take a lot for Russell Wilson to not be the starter in week 1. That's just the best way I can put it. A lot. It almost doesn't matter what Justin does. If Russ looks the part, if Russ looks like he can be the guy that can run this offense, he's going to be the guy week 1. That's just the way that's the way that I have seen it even before the whole, as Mr. CJ Jr. here says, pole position thing began. That's how I saw it. So Jay Moods asks, what gunners are available in the open market? Who could we bring in? That would be something that would happen whenever cut down day comes and you see who all hits the market. Mark brings it up, says, why let both Boykin and Pierre walk? It's not like they cost a lot. It's those kind of guys. You're talking about Miles Boykin, James Pierre, those guys who can serve as gunners on special teams, on punt coverage. What if one of those guys becomes available? You have other guys who might become available. You just never know. And so that's why the cut down day is a part of building the 53-man roster. It's not just the 90 guys that are currently on the roster. You have cut down day, you have trades possibly, you have a lot of different pieces, a lot of different ways to build a 53-man roster, and cut down day is part of that, because there might be guys who they already have in their mind that are currently on another roster, on another 90-man roster, that they know from everything that they're hearing or whatever, that they know, okay, that guy's not going to be on their 53. So we'll wait for cut down day, wait for him to become available, and then we'll bring him on. So that's that's pretty much how I see that playing out. Unless Ryan Watts or Corey Trice or Des Fitzpatrick or Darius Rush or any of these guys really show a lot in the next couple of weeks, I do think that the gunner position is probably going to be addressed through an external addition, most likely through when cut downs happen in a week and a half. And Ben here mentioned, Arthur Smith mentioned Dez before Quez on Pat McAfee's interview the other day. Take that as you will. Yeah, I mean, like I said, as receivers, I think it's a bit of a wash. I've seen Quez Watkins have some really good days as a receiver. I've also seen Des Fitzpatrick be, pretty solid too. But I've also seen Des have he had a couple of really rough days in Latrobe. I remember one day specifically, I think he had like 2 or 3 terrible drops. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember this for sure, even though it happened yesterday, Justin Fields threw a pick, but it was a situation in which he threw it, tipped right off of his receiver's hands. It was right there, tipped off the hands, easy tip drill for the defensive back. So it was not on Fields whatsoever. And I believe it was Fitzpatrick who was the intended receiver. I don't remember that for sure though, but I want to say in my memory of watching that play, it was 82 trying to catch the ball. So, and Jim says, and address wide receiver at cut down day as well. Hey, it could be if the Brandon Ayuk trade does not happen. Maybe that's another area in which they, that's a medium or a means of how they, add another receiver to the mix. Who knows at this point, but I do know, and I reported it in Friday Insider, that they are waiting this thing out with Ayuk. And I mean, they have other things on hold, including their own internal extensions. When it comes to, you talk about guys such as Cam Hayward, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, all those guys, they're pretty much putting those things on hold because they want to see what happens with Ayuk. I think because they need to know how much money they're going to have available, which makes this whole thing frustrating because, obviously the Steelers have business to attend to, but it's not like the 49ers don't have other business to attend to either. They got Trent Williams to worry about. That, like, they've got their own issues to worry about too. So when I hear John Lynch say stuff like, they want this resolved quickly as well, I do believe that he truly means that he is not trying to actually drag this thing out. I do think that John Lynch and the 49ers have played that situation terribly. If they end up paying Brandon Ayuk, they could have avoided so much of this. They could have avoided this entire thing dragging into pretty much all of their training camp by just paying him, by just giving him the contract that he wants. And it shouldn't have to be a situation in which he requests a trade and he pretty much is leveraging his way out of the city, even though he doesn't want to leave. But he's just like, well, if you're not going to pay me, then trade me somewhere where they will. Because as much as he wants to stay, he's not going to give them this gigantic hometown discount. That's just where he is, and he has every right to believe that way. So the Steelers are in, and Jay Mood says it here too. He says the Ayuk trade is exhausting. I agree. It is. This entire situation is exhausting. I'm tired of talking about it. Believe it or not, like there is one, I'm not going to call anybody out here, but there is one subscriber on DKPittsburghSports.com. And if you're watching the show, I'm really not trying to take a dig at you or anything like that. That's not what this is. I just noticed it. But we have our little emoji reactions to all of the feed entries. This one subscriber, every time I put an entry in there that is at all Ayuk related, he does the little eye roll emoji every single time. Every time. And I don't think it's because he's like, I'm sure he has this same mentality that, like, dude, this entire thing, my wife, who is not even like, she is not a big, gigantic sports person. She is not like following, like, she likes to go to games and watch them that way and have fun that way. She is not emotionally invested in teams. The only team I could ever really say that about her is the Texas Rangers. That's because that was her dad's favorite team. But, like, she is not emotionally invested whatsoever. And she's even said, this thing is exhausting. I'm like, yes, I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of reporting on it. I'm ready for it to be over just as much as all of you. Trust me. I would much rather focus my energy on what's going on internally with this team. But because it could be a massive trade for the Steelers, and this guy would immediately become the team's best offensive player. And the fact is that we know it's one of two things. He either signs an extension and stays in San Francisco, or he is traded to the Steelers. It's one of those two things. So I'm tired of it too, man. I'm really tired of it. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm sure you're tired of hearing about it. But it's news, and my job literally is to report the news. That's BS says, I thought it was over and he is staying in San Francisco. I don't know where you saw that. I have no idea where you saw that. There was a fake Adam Schefter account that tweeted out that Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers had agreed to an extension. But there was a lot of first off, I have, like, just as a reporter, you have certain, like, Twitter notifications on. So I have all of the NFL national insiders, like, I have all of their Twitter notifications on. So every time Schefter tweets, or Rappaport, Garofalo, or Pelissaro, any of those guys tweet, I have a notification that pops up immediately. Like, I know every time they tweet. So I never saw that come up. And then it also said, like, it gave the news, and then it says, like, per Dov Kleiman, which, if you know who that is on Twitter, you know that it's fake. That's like one of the worst Twitter accounts out there when it comes to sports news, when it comes to aggregation. Like, literally, it might be the worst. Like, for real. And so when it says, like, per Dov Kleiman, and you're just like, it's just one of those things where I, like, look at it and go, like, And I just kind of keep moving on. So yeah, the thing is not done yet. He has not signed an extension, and the Steelers have not been told that like trade's not happening. And the Steelers haven't told the 49ers, okay, well, we're done pursuing and we're moving on. Like, we are literally in this stage in which we're just all sitting here waiting. Okay, what's going to happen? That's the latest. I even put it in Insider. The latest is there's nothing new. We're in the final stages here, but it's like the end of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Frodo. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you don't want to know what happens, earmuffs. Frodo and Sam, actually, whatever, the ring gets destroyed, and you're thinking, okay, well, that's the climax, that's the ending of the movie, and so like movie ending in 10 minutes. Nope, the movie ended like in 35 minutes, and it just kept dragging on and on and on, and you're just like, what the heck is going on? And I'm sitting there in the movie theater watching this for the first time, having drank the largest Coke that they had there, having to go to the bathroom so bad, just being like, when is this movie going to end so I can go to the bathroom? That is this situation. We're in the final stages. We know that this is going to come down to one of two things, and that's it. But it's just dragging on and on. This is us finding out about Samwise getting married at the end and starting a family, and Frodo leaving the Hobbits and them being really sad. And yeah, we're talking about Lord of the Rings today. Here we go. Mark asks, Chris, do you think San Francisco is trying to see if Omar will up the ante to get the deal done? No. That they have an offer. They have a framework in place for a trade. There's nothing else to be done there. And that offer from the Steelers does not include a first round pick. So there's nothing else to be done when it comes to the negotiations of the trade. They have a framework in place. All John Lynch has to do is pick up the phone, call Omar, and say, hey, we didn't sign him to an extension. We're trading him to you. Deal done. Click. That's all that has to be done. So that's it. William says, I bet the movies were cheaper in Texas. I don't know. Those movies also came out a long time ago when movies were just cheaper in general. That movie came out, what, 03, 04? I think 03. Oh, yeah, that was 21 years ago. God, man, you make me feel old. Let's see. I was in high school. I'll put it that way. I was in high school. Let's get to a couple of questions here near the end. Oh, okay. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight on here. I am really shocked that this did not get the reaction. I was expecting a much bigger reaction to this. Zach Frazier is going to be the starting center in week 1. I was told that, and I was told that before Nate Herbig got injured in practice. So Zach Frazier is going to be the starting center in week 1. That pretty much the preseason game was enough for them to decide that. Not because of the center quarterback exchange issues with Herbig and Justin Fields, but mostly just because Zach Frazier looked amazing. He looked really, really good, really solid in pass protection, looked really good in run blocking. His communication skills have been praised by people such as Fields. He is just thoroughly impressing everybody. And so I was told that even before Herbig got injured, that the plan was for Zach Frazier to be the starting center. That is in the Friday Insider. So if you read Friday Insider and didn't comment on that, and you're like either you didn't read it, or like the stuff about Russell Wilson was just enough for you to be like, okay, I just want to focus on that, because that was the first thing that I said. Like when he got down to like more Steelers and got past the Russell Wilson stuff, like that was the second, that was going to lead what I was going to be talking about. And then I found out about the Russ stuff. I was like, okay, well, that obviously takes precedence. And so, because obviously if you read Insider, you saw the amount of stuff that I, had learned, over the past several days. And Frazier was, that was a few days ago that I found that out. So it was before Herbig got injured on Wednesday. So, yeah. Zach Frazier, your week 1 center. Whether Herbig comes back or not, from what I am told, the plan is for him to be the starting center. So, really shocked that did not get a bigger response. I fully expected, like right now, I'm going to pull up Friday Insider. Like Friday Insider is at the top of the site right now at DKPittsburghSports.com. Right here, you can see that. Let's ride with the question at the end. There's comments right now. We're at 101 comments and going through. I mean, going through it, like I might not have seen anything reacting, not one out of 101 comments that was reacting to Zach Frazier being the week 1 starter. That shocked me because like everybody has been like, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people were like, clamoring for this guy, for Fautanu to be the starter at right tackle, which I have stuff on him in there too. But also Zach Frazier, man, like I have a sneaky kid in the background. I hear him in the background too. What are you doing? That's my son sneaking around. Okay, go back upstairs. Beauty of having a live YouTube show. Oh man, just wait. Yeah, anybody who's had kids, man, you understand. Yeah. Let's see here. There was a couple of comments on here about Zach Frazier. Yeah, like Jay Mood says here, is that like the dude understands leverage. Yeah. And Mark says, his wrestling background is a plus for sure. Absolutely. Like, no, it's a legitimate thing. Like you're seeing a lot of this stuff really translate. Really translate. And the fact that it is translating from the college level to the NFL level. Now, granted, he hasn't played a regular season snap at the NFL level yet. So I don't think that anybody should expect Zach Frazier to just step in and become the next Marquise Pouncey. Like, I don't think anybody should be expecting that. If it does, phenomenal. Like, that's just another center to add to just the great players that they've had at that position, from Mike Webster, Dermontti Dawson. Jeff Harding's not quite on that level, but still a really great center, really good center. And then obviously Pouncey, they've had like a lot of success at center. And so Zach Frazier, man, like if he can come in week 1 and really, really just already make himself the guy anchoring the offensive line, that's a huge win. And Chris B71 here says, I think his intelligence coupled with his athleticism will be the difference maker. Yeah, for sure. I mean, his athleticism, that should also really, really help when it comes to this wide zone stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. We have, like I said, preseason game tomorrow night, Saturday night. The Bills, they're staying in town. They were here for joint practice yesterday. They are staying in town to play tomorrow night's preseason game. 7:00 at Acrisure Stadium. DK and I are going to be on the scene covering that. Greg is on vacation. And when I say he is on vacation, I mean he is on vacation. He is not in the continental United States right now. I'll put it that way. So a little jealous, actually. But no, glad that he's getting a good break before the grind of football season starts, because he's obviously also got Pitt to worry about too. So, good for him to get that, because, once the football season starts, I was explaining to a couple people last night, it's like this is just starting. Like I'm not going to have any time for myself pretty much until the Steelers are done playing football. Like I keep talking about like when I get to play the new college football game, I don't know if I'll get a chance to do that yet. So I don't know. I hope I do at some point. It'd be great, but I don't know when that's going to happen. But either way, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys. Love all the interaction that we have every single time we step on the show, or we step up here to have the show. You guys, bring your A game just about every single day. I see Mark already knows the saying, man. And I got to go with the Michael Scott stuff. Hey Chris, catch you on the flippity flip. Yep. That's where we go. We gotta do the Michael Scott stuff. Oh, Randy, with the question of the day here. Mitch Trubisky, is he gonna play? I would assume so, yes. Josh Allen is starting for the Bills, but I would assume Trubisky gets some snaps in there. And really fun note from yesterday's joint practice, really quick just to wrap this up. They were running the 2-minute drill at the end of practice, and Trubisky was running it for the Bills. And his first pass goes out of bounds to the Steelers sideline. George Pickens catches it, and he says he's still trying to throw passes to me. I laughed so hard. A lot of people laughed. It was funny. It was hilarious. So, that was probably one of the highlights of yesterday's practice. It was hilarious. It's not one of those situations, like as a reporter, you're not trying to immerse yourself in what's going on in front of you. You're trying to take a step back and see everything. But that's one of those situations where it literally happens maybe 20 feet away from you, and you are close enough to hear him say something like that. You're just like, wow. And it was an open practice. I mean, it was closed to the public, but it was an open practice to the point where we could literally report on anything that we were seeing. Like a player goes down with an injury, anything like that. Like, it was the same rules as training camp for us. So anything we see or hear, we're allowed to report. And yeah, that was really funny. So there's your little end of show story. And I'm seeing some of you guys are getting a good kick out of that. So yeah, it was really funny. Anyway, thank you guys so much. You guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the game. DK and I will have you guys covered from Acrisure Stadium, and then we will be back. Actually, Greg will be back. The show next week is going to be a little interesting because I am actually tagging in on Pirates coverage next week. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the Pirates are in Texas, and I am going back to my old stomping grounds in Texas to cover that series. And so we have to kind of figure out what's going to go on with the show, what's going to happen with the show. I would assume they're back at practice on Monday, so we're going to have to kind of see what happens. But because I don't think Greg is back until Tuesday, so we'll see. We'll see. But you guys have a great day. Catch you guys on the flippity flip. We'll see you next week.